لعبادنا المرسلين.
It is the most important story in the country. The next major war for the United States is with ISIS. But what media and politicians are not telling you the truth about, where ISIS came from, who created them, and why before one more dollar is spent, one more American life lost, you need to know the truth.
Call the Mossad when they deal with publicly?
I thought it was a reasonable question, but the trouble is you can't pick up the phone book. There's no Langley in Israel that you can look up CIA, or in our case, the Mossad. We thought we should ask, what shall we call it in English? You can translate the Hebrew words, as I said, Mossad is institute, but when they write a letter to their friends in the CIA or the British intelligence, what do they call themselves? It took a while. It was a matter of asking the Prime Minister's spokesman. The best you could do, because officially the Mossad is under the Prime Minister's office. And I think he sort of wondered why you want to know and all that, so we explained. And he came up with the Israeli Secret Intelligence Service. I mean, if it were to have initials, it would be ISIS. Just simple words like that. Interestingly enough.
Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, so-called Caliph, the head of ISIL Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant, is not only an agent of Mossad. The Israeli named Simon Elliott, or Elliot Shimon, published site American Veterans Today a report in which he said that the leader of the Daesh, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, is not only an agent of Mossad. The Israeli named Simon Elliott, or Elliot Shimon, was trained to head the organization Daesh in order to spread chaos in the Arab countries neighboring Israel. The report published by the site.
Masquerading as a leader of the Islamic Caliphate. And here he is hanging out with your Senator John McCain. It is time to round up and arrest the majority of U.S. congressmen, senators, politicians, bankers, Wall Street executives, and corporate leaders, because they are all guilty of treason. And masquerading as leaders of some sort of radical group only to sell you the propaganda right here in the media in the United States.
Adam Gadon, the so-called American Al-Qaeda who proclaimed himself the media maven, if you will, for Al-Qaeda, and was helping to produce a lot of these so-called Al-Qaeda videos that were all over the internet that made Al-Qaeda look really bad and made the Muslims look bad.
Should you fail to comply in full, we will deem it sufficient justification to continue to fight and kill Americans.
Come to find out, Adam Gadon's real name was Adam Perlman. And not only was he, in fact, Jewish, he was the grandson of a member of the board of the Anti-Defamation League. See, I got a turban on my head. I'm a terrible Muslim. Gotta hate me, gotta be afraid of me. And, of course, everybody's laughing at him now because we all know who he is. Okay, so they have brought in the understudy, and there is a new American Al-Qaeda named Yusuf al-Khattab. Ooh, big scary name, and they've got a picture of him out there where he's holding all these guns and knives, and he's dressed up like a wannabe Rambo, and he's scowling at the camera, and he supposedly has this website with things in it, like pictures of the Statue of Liberty with an axe buried in the back of the head. I mean, very heavy-handed, very over-the-top. It was also more like a movie prop than anything else here. So, as it turns out, this is another fake. His real name is Joseph Cohen.
He's a 39-year-old New York City taxi driver, as you mentioned. He called himself Yusuf al-Khattab, but he was born Joseph Cohen here in America. He is a Jew.
And he is another manufactured front to try and convince Americans that Al-Qaeda is actually here in the United States. This is why we've got to be doing this, doing surveillance on the American people and reading their email and listening to their phone calls and all this stuff, because you never know when we're going to get into a situation with the American Al-Qaeda. And it's all a front. It's a fake. He's up there. He's there to try and create an enemy that doesn't really exist in order to justify the totalitarian treatment of the American people and to encourage us to go and attack them before they kill us. They're already here on the home front. We've got to go bomb those gosh darn Muslims, because they're infiltrating America, and they're ripping tags off of couch cushions, and they're causing global warming, and we've got to go and
James Foley's brother, Michael, and his sister, Katie, are in Dover, New Hampshire this morning. First of all, we'd like to extend our deepest sympathies to both of you and your entire family. I think it's hard for all of us, Katie and Michael, to imagine the pain you've been going through. So how has your time your brother had been kidnapped?
No, it wasn't, Katie. No, it wasn't, Katie. I don't know, detained for something like 40 days in Libya. We worked day and night to get him released. I'll never forget meeting him in Tunisia and flying him and an email from his captors.
As Americans?
Hi, we at SITE have been researching the jihadi threat online for over a decade, follow their steps, monitor their activities, and study their activities online. Anytime Al-Qaeda or ISIS become more and more sophisticated and adapt new technology, we follow that technology and we study their techniques. By doing that, we can predict where they might be uploading the videos online. After all, these videos are being disseminated online, they are published online, and so they have to go somewhere online for the dissemination. We looked and found.
So you looked and you found it. Obviously, you just heard the State Department spokeswoman, tell me, look, they haven't yet authenticated the video. Are you certain it is what it claims to be?
The video shows the beheading of Stephen Sutcliffe. The location where the video was obtained from is the location that ISIS usually uploads their original videos to. The video shows a clear message from ISIS that follows the same message that it had before. And in fact, within a short time after our release, ISIS account on social media indicated that within a short time they will be releasing the video. Only we actually had that video beforehand and were able to beat them with the release.
Questions we had to ask.
Well, you were asking some tough questions. Actually, we're going to go to that clip now.
Senator, there are 5 U.S. warships in the Mediterranean right now. Russia and China allegedly are sending warships as well. Russia, China, and Iran have warned the United States of catastrophic consequences if the United States attacks Syria. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that it doesn't concern me in the slightest.
And why is that?
Because they will not act, just as they didn't act when the Israelis 4 times have taken out targets inside Syria. Syria said that they would react, and they didn't. The United States is the most powerful nation in the world, and we're not going to be intimidated by Russia and China. We are not. So I guarantee you that they will not act. If we launch these strikes against Syria, they will not act.
Senator Ted Cruz said yesterday out of Texas that we should not act as Al-Qaeda's air force. The Al-Nusra Front is fighting alongside the Free Syrian Army, which is directly linked to Al-Qaeda. Why was the United States fighting against Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, but now fighting alongside them in Syria?
Because your statement is totally false. Your statement could not be more false.
That isn't false. That's been well documented.
No, your statement is false. So if you want to say that it's not, I'm entitled to say your statement is false. I've been in Syria. You've been in Syria?
No, I have not.
No, you have not.
It's also clear that the American people overwhelmingly do not support a war in Syria. A research poll said 91% of Americans do not support it.
Your statement was false, so I don't have any response to a false statement.
Senator McCain, what do you say about your judgment on how to pick the good and evil in Syria when you yourself were photographed? How do we trust your judgment? Picking the good and the evil is...
I was photographed with someone because it appeared in an Al-Qaeda newspaper in Lebanon.
It appeared in the Guardian newspaper. You obviously know what I'm talking about. How are we supposed to trust your judgment if you're photographed with known terrorists?
I have never had anything to do with known terrorists, and I'm offended by your question.
Everybody gets caught up to speed here, and not everybody's on the same level. So if you've already seen it, you don't need to watch this video any further.
Japanese hostages are being held captive by an ISIS member known as Jihad John, and it immediately struck me as a bogus video filmed in a studio, not only because of the very fake-looking ambient lighting, which looks nowhere near natural sunlight, but also because of a crucial detail that entirely gives away a lame studio production, the shadows. If you pay close attention to the shadows around the neck of the two alleged hostages, you will notice that they are being cast in two complete opposite directions, whereas Jihad John's shadow is being cast behind him, what definitely suggests three different light sources in the scene. Unless this footage was filmed in Tatooine or some other alien...
...is because we've been arming their allies. We have been allied with ISIS in Syria. They have had a safe haven because we have been arming the rebels to keep Assad away from them, and now they go back and forth. So I think our intervention in Syria has led...
I do. We're building a relationship that just did not exist. I said in our last trip when you were with me that we had a huge trust deficit, in part because the United States had... To be fair, we had helped to create the problem we're now fighting. How? Because when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, we had this brilliant idea that we were going to come to Pakistan and create a force of mujahideen, equip them with Stinger missiles and everything else to go after the Soviets inside Afghanistan. And we were successful. The Soviets left Afghanistan, and then we said, great, goodbye, leaving these trained people who were fanatical in Afghanistan and Pakistan, leaving them well armed, creating a mess, frankly, that at the time we didn't really recognize. We were just so happy to see the Soviet Union fall, and we thought, okay, fine, we're okay now. Everything's going to be so much better. Now you look back, the people we're fighting today, we were supporting in the fight against the Soviets.
Belonging to a Texas City company, pictured in a tweet that looks like it's coming from a terrorist organization.
And now the company is getting threats and is worried for their employees' safety. Alice Barr joins us live with the story all new at 6. Alice.
At Mark I Plumbing in Texas City for a reason no one here could have ever imagined.
People think that you are aiding and abetting terrorists.
Right.
It's all because of this photo posted on an Islamic militant group's Twitter feed. It shows one of the company's old work trucks turned into an anti-aircraft firing weapon on the front lines of Syria's civil war.
We had no intentions or no idea that this would even happen.
There it is. Mark I Plumbing.
It looks like the ISIS already knows that the US bombing the area.
لكن الله رمى اللهم سدد رمينا يا الله